What's happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with your host, Kwame Fisher-Jones, NFL style. As always, I'm joined by my man, Chris Franklin of NJ.com. Chris and I were discussing the chances of who the Eagles could play and the trials and tribulations of who they might play. But we're going to venture away from the Eagles for now. A story that came through, the big story for the week for me, and I know it's kind of the lull before the calm before the storm. No Patrick Mahomes on a Pro Bowl roster. Explain that to me. Just explain that to me. How?
And in all honesty, when you look at the numbers that these guys have put up, the guy Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who both are 1, 2, depending on who you talk to, in the MVP voting. And you hate to see, even though the record is not showing well for it, Joe Burrow has been playing
Yes.
out of his mind. That's the one. Like you look at the way that when you look at Mahomes' numbers, you look at Joe Burrow's numbers, you look at the impact that Burrow has on that offense in terms of explosiveness and just the numbers alone and the overall trend. I think you're ready to burn. You're ready.
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna let you. Kanye West is on line one. I'm gonna let you finish. But
And I just think overall, and you look at the way that these quarterbacks have played, that's how good the AFC is. And
oh,
I
stop.
think the way that if we're eight, he's number 4 in that conference right now. He really is.
Okay. Josh Allen is nothing but motivation. Josh Allen is the little brother that just keeps chomping at his ankles, and every once in a while, when Patrick Mahomes slips up, little brother gets the best of him. But we all know who runs that house, especially when mom and dad are home. So I'm not talking about Josh Allen. And my affinity for Lamar Jackson knows no bounds. I'm biased. I make no bones about it. I even let the cat out of the bag. They're my Super Bowl pick. So I'm going to put Lamar Jackson. One of those names doesn't belong. You don't care about 42 touchdowns. One of those names does not belong. There is nowhere in the universe, the metaverse, the pantheon of life where you take Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes. I don't give a rip what you. He's got Jamar Chase. Okay, Patrick Mahomes has got Andy Reid. Fine. You want to sell those two equate? That's fine. He plays on a team that is habitually, when they walk on the court, walk on the field, down by 20. So he's passing the ball much more than Mahomes. 8-8, 5-5 last year before he got hurt. Those things. We're not going to consider those things. We're just going to look just specifically at this year. I am looking at a Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City Chiefs team that is 15-1. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that
right.
is that right? 15-1.
Yeah.
15-1. I'm looking at a guy who's managing an offense where his best threat is the age of Fred G. Sanford. His second best threat is an Olympic track star, and his third best threat is a head coach who is doing what is it? Up chuck, double chuck, State Farm commercials. Those are Patrick Mahomes' biggest threats on offense. Think about that. Like I say it in jest because I don't want to seem angry, but think about that for a minute. Patrick Mahomes' best threats on offense is an aging is kind tight end, a track star wide receiver. We don't know what DeAndre Hopkins is doing right now. Maybe he'll get it together come playoffs. I hope so. But we can't consider him a threat. And a head coach. Those are his options on offense. And yet he still has an offense that is dangerous. He's still the most dangerous player on the football field. He's the best quarterback in the league. His position should be solidified. There should be no question. It should be no question. So now you're talking about Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And of those three, Burrow isn't even the best of those three. When your best argument for him is his numbers, you're not telling me anything because anybody could put numbers up in a passing league. I was incensed when I saw this. And I repeat it, there is never a place in this universe, the metaverse, or in the pantheon of life where you would take Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow's mother, father, best friend, girlfriend, jump off, whatever you want to say, would take Patrick Mahomes over him. Come on, man. What are you
Jump off.
telling me here?
The
42
jump off.
touchdowns. 42 touchdowns is why he's there. 42 touchdowns. That's why we're taking him over Patrick Mahomes.
I'm taking him over Patrick. Like I think it's two different arguments we're talking when it comes here. If you're saying if I was starting a franchise and I was putting him on as a quarterback, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes first. Start as a
Okay.
franchise because it's a winner. I'm looking overall at the way that this offense is going. Because if you put the Bengals and then you gave them a competent, if you put the Chiefs defense, put that on the Bengals, and you have him going there, there's no doubt that the Bengals will be the number one seed in this conference
Mhm.
because if they that offense, you look at both things, it just clicks and it goes very well. And the person that's been doing it, that basically who the person who's willed this team back into even having a shot at being in the playoff has been Joe Burrow. There's been too many one possession games with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think there was they set the record, I think, for something like that, most one possession games in terms of that. And it should not be that way with the way that Chiefs defense is playing. And I give you the credit, like I give it to you when in terms of okay, Kelsey's not what he used to be. He definitely is not. He's banged up. He's banged up. He may be thinking about, I wonder what Taylor's doing this time. I wonder if we're going to. It could be stuff like that. I understand that for him. Were the ski the way ski thing, anything else? It, Patrick Mahomes, he still has the ability to win those late games, but in terms of purely running the offense, purely putting the passing stats up, purely putting that scheme and everything else, he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes this season in that terms. Just one. That's the way I think he's just outplayed him
Okay.
when you look at that.
All fair points. Let me ask you a question. You're lining up this week. I got Kansas City on line one. The NFL removes all the trade deadlines. It says, hey, I want, and Kansas City calls you up and says, hey, I want Joe Burrow this week. I'll give you Patrick Mahomes. You're the Cincinnati Bengals. You take that trade.
I'm taking that trade, yeah, because I
Okay.
still got to look at the other. Yeah, I
It's
still
it's
want it.
not for the season, just for one game. Just for this one game. I call
Yeah.
you up and say, hey, let's switch quarterbacks. You're jumping at that, right?
Oh yeah.
So to me, that means that the better player is Patrick Mahomes. If you're
Better.
talking about a season, a game, a practice, you always want Patrick Mahomes. Like I get it. He hasn't been he hasn't been a Bugatti this season. He's only been a Lamborghini when necessary. Oh damn! But Joe Burrow has managed to be a Mazda, like a Porsche, like a 911, not even a 911, a Porsche, and people are like, "Oh, well, that I'm taking that Porsche over." Like I'm dumbfounded by it, dude. I cannot understand this, and I understand your argument. I understand your point of view. I understand everything you're saying, but is Patrick that mofo Mahomes and Joe Burrow like like you're telling me that Joe Burrow in somewhere in life is better than Patrick Mahomes, and I just can't swallow it. I just can't take that.
And it's hard to believe, but if you look for week 1, week 17, you took the whole thing into it. He like, and this will happen too. Like, because all pro voting is going to come out pretty soon too. And it's the first and second team. Would you put Mahomes on the first or second team for his performance this year by himself? Would you put him on the whole entire season? Would you put him on there?
Well, to answer your question, I would put him on the second team only because his team is 15-1, and he's one of the main reasons why. But would not have a problem if you put someone else not named Joe Burrow.
Oh,
I
Burrow's not
wouldn't
second
have a
team, no.
problem if you put, let's say, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen has played tremendous this year. And I know Bills fans, and they all say the same thing. They're all uttering the same statements. Come talk to me during playoff time. Talk to me during playoff time. And I'm like, I'm not trying to convince you it's going to be different, but he looks different this year. So I'm taking Josh Allen out of the equation. Let's say he's first team. So now you're talking about Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I understand that argument. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Chris, that argument we can have all day. Joe
Oh,
Burrow
well,
is not in the
oh
conversation.
no. I just want to see where you put Mahomes. Oh no,
Okay.
he's not gonna be first team. No. Oh no. It's first, and I've talked to a
Fourth
couple of AP
team.
voters too. I think he's
If you
yeah,
got to count
Burrow's
that low.
13. Burrow's 13. Burrow's a 13. If they don't have 3 teams, they don't have a third team AP. They just have 1, 2. I still put Burrow ahead of. I'm sorry. If
Are we just doing it for the season? Or we just talking about this? So you're
just this
saying he's had a
season.
better season in golf?
Yeah,
Exactly.
he has. Because
Exactly.
I think he has. Because also, if you go, I think he really has a better season in golf. It's me. It's just that just even sounds where you're saying golf is a. And this is why probably I'm not. This is why I'm not in part of Associated Press. This is why I'm not a voter because I'm like, part of me was like, okay, well, golf. Jared Goff. What, am I really right? No, no, and that's wrong because I got the bias from reputation and everything else. And Goff has had a really good year. I attribute that more to a lot of other factors in terms of that. I think he had a better offensive coordinator, was he? But anyway, I think yes, it takes, but yeah, it's for AFC just one season. Now, if this was 2023, oh yeah, Mahomes. If Mahomes had was doing the same thing that Burrow was doing this year, and then you saw Burrow was having the same numbers that Mahomes had, so I'm giving it to Mahomes next year. But just looking at the way that the offense is alone, gotta just right now. Now, if there's a playoff team that had if they had the same thing like a playoff Pro Bowl team, I'm not even counting Burrow to be on that. I'm not counting Burrow to be on that. I count Mahomes to be on that. But just overall regular season, that play and what he's had to maintain, and especially this last part of the season, it's just got Burrow, man. I got Burrow in
I
this
hate to come
aspect.
out swinging like this. I hate to come out swinging,
Fine.
but I just want to end it on this. You may, and then we got to move on to Saquon Barkley. You said it just sounds weird to say. Well, you know what sounds weirder? You know what sounds crazier? Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes. It sounds like what? Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes. Sounds more insane. Now I want to transition from one unacceptable award or judgment, whatever you want to call it, to a on-field performance that I'm a little concerned about. Saquon Barkley crashed the 2,000-yard mark, and kudos to you. You said that if he got 2 grand, he would not play against the Giants. I said, oh, he's got a chance to set the record. Blah, 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 blah. He would play off his. Well, you were right. I was 100% wrong. He's not going to play against the Giants, which I take umbrage with, but whatever. So he's going to sit out. The Eagles are preparing for the playoffs. We were discussing before the show about who we would rather see. I'm terrified of the Packers. You say bring them on. But I want to know what impact will Saquon Barkley's MVP campaign. He's, I think he's in the running. He's either I would say he'll be Offensive Player of the Year. You would know better than me. I think though he would definitely finish second at worst, but I would be shocked if he doesn't get the Offensive Player of the Year. But the bigger thing is there's only been one 2,000-yard rusher to ever win the Super Bowl in a year. They rushed for 2,000 yards. And it was almost 30 years ago. It was Terrell Davis in 1998. And I had to check that because I was like, I thought Jamal Lewis. No. I thought Chris Johnson. No. I thought Terrell Davis was second. No. He's the only guy. TD's the only guy to do it. So that gives me cause for pause. When we'll go over the matchups a little bit later on in the conversation. But what do you think Saquon Barkley's impact, not just on the Eagles, but his 2,000-yard impact will have on how teams view the running back position going forward?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I mean, we see so many in that locker room in the Nova kickers. We see so many gifts and things get sent in. If I'm a free agent running back this year, I'm sending him whatever Amazon, whatever sponsorships he got, and that goes directly to his locker for the way he's done because he just he just proved that there's still so much value in there. And the way that it's going to have to change the way teams, not just that, it's going to have to way to change play defenses now too. We see so many times now the Fangio scheme that everybody plays. They don't want to give up the explosive plays. They play the 2 high safeties. They don't want to get beat in the pass. So it leaves so much room in the running game for that. Teams can't do that now. When you see
Yeah.
a lot of these impact guys, even if you go down to Seattle and say like Zach Charbonnet and all that stuff, you give him a 2 high safety look, he's going to get about 4 or 5 yards
Yeah.
if he got a competent offensive line in front of him. I blame Seattle, but that's a whole other story. That stuff happens on there. So teams are going to have that. So not only is he having that impact of getting these guys paid, not only is he having the impact of, you know what, this is not just a throwaway position. You have to invest that. You just can't give away that. Give away the running backs, let him go walk anymore. He's going to change. He changed the overall face of the game, and he's not the only one. I forget who. I apologize whoever put this out there, but it's a very good point of this. Remember, we were talking in free agency about Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and
Yeah.
all these other premier lines. Look at what the records of all those teams that they walk.
Yeah.
All losing records. We have good football players as a whole, no matter what position. You can't just
Yeah.
let them walk.
That's a great point. When you have great players, you have great players or great teams or great organizations, things tend to go well. So when a great player doesn't do well, you should look at the organization before we look at the player. I've been saying that for years. Teams fail players far more than they fail players for organizations. I think the impact is going to be profound because it will allow. I think it's going to be a trickle down thing. So I'm very high on Jalen Hurts. You're not as high on me and Jalen Hurts, but you have a tremendous amount of respect for him. The bar for Jalen Hurts is so high, and the goalpost is always being moved. Everyone else just needs to be good. Jalen Hurts needs to be the reason why the Eagles win week in and week out. And I've said this before. Yes, Jalen needs to improve. He doesn't need to be amazing. He doesn't need to be a Hall of Fame quarterback every possession, every snap. I'm old enough to remember Joe Montana and John Elway throwing interceptions. Like, you know what I mean? Those two also stink when they poop. So it's when I think about what Saquon has done, he's allowed a quarterback to find himself. Think about what we haven't seen every game this year. Jalen, that turnover. Come on, Jalen turnover. He's had a couple games, but he hasn't had them week in and week out. Saquon's been the reason for that. He's also taken a mediocre play caller in Kellen Moore, who had some success in Dallas, did not have a lot of success in Los Angeles. I think many would agree with me. And he's had tremendous success with Philadelphia. He's AJ Brown, Devontae Smith have all managed to, miss games due to injury and the Eagles not fall off the wagon. Goddard's been MIA all season. I'm almost certain their first round pick this year in the draft will be a tight end. If not, their top 50, their second top 50 pick. Because you know better than me. They have two top 50 picks this year, right? In
Yeah,
the
yeah,
draft.
they got two, they got those two, and I think they have three in the top 100 and three in the top 100, something like that.
10 to get you 20, it'll be a tight end and a guard. 10 to get you 20. That they'll be drafting tight end and guard this year. So, with all that said, Saquon has eliminated a lot of things. But the big thing is, and I forget the brother's name, the lineman from the Jets, who was like they had ran
Becton.
out. Yeah, they had ran him out of the league. Like he was a bust upon bust. He is now the starter on an offensive line that had a running back rush for 2,000 yards.
He's
That
got
says a
paid.
lot. You know, that says a lot, man. So he is going to the running back position, they'll get more money, especially good teams will be willing to pay a little bit more, but it'll also allow the quarterbacks. So the game will be called differently for a lot of quarterbacks that aren't Patrick Mahomes and apparently Joe Burrow. We'll see guys like Josh Allen instead of grabbing an Amari Cooper. They'll focus on maybe going after Josh Jacobs and maybe overpaying. It's good for football because the running back position, which is I just say it is a predominantly African American position. To watch the value of it go down the toilet, it was an issue, especially with the things that go on in the NFL. It was an issue, and to watch Christian McCaffrey get hailed as this great, great, tremendous player. But I think all would agree now that I ain't so crazy, and I'll give it back to him taking all the out. But I ain't so crazy when I said Saquon was better than Christian McCaffrey. I said he was a better running back than Christian McCaffrey. Well, looks where's we sits. Just saying. Just looks where we sit. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see the toll of him always being hurt and not being available on the field. You're starting to see what it does, and it starts to wear him down. And yeah, listen, when you look at the way the position is now, you gotta wonder, all that money's going to running backs got to come away from somewhere. And I think in the next one you're looking at as tight end is going to be the one
Oh
because you
yeah,
look at all
definitely.
these guys at tight because so many most of them are wide receivers anyway. We saw the fight that Gazeki. I'm not a wide receiver. I'm a wide receiver because I split out so much. No, you're a tight end, and look at the money that's going around that way. So you look at them; they're the ones that are going to be next. And I don't care if you have. I know you have tight end university. You have National Tight End Day. They're trying like there's I forget who's Zach Ertz's agent. I forget, but he's a big proponent for all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're looking around the guys coming in here on the younger tight ends. There aren't that many that are going there. So that's probably where the franchise tags and transition tags, if anybody ever uses it anymore, that's where it's all going to go. And if I'm a tight end, I'm looking like, oh, so this is what your running backs feel like. Oh,
Yeah.
my bad. I'm sorry. So yeah, I think that's where it goes. But overall, you look at the running back spot, and we're seeing a major resurgence, and even when you look at a draft, and people say, "Oh, well, you can get one in the fifth round." Yeah, you can, but it won't be at the level of the guys you see coming out here too. So it's in good hands with Barkley still. I think we're starting to see the downside of McCaffrey. You look at Bijan Robinson's a guy I'm
Yeah.
really high on in the future here because Just hope he gets a competent offensive coordinator in there down there or whatever he plays at. Like he has to move on, but yeah, the future's looking bright for that position.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, I do have one concern. I got to leave this segment on a low note as far as disappointment. It means nothing if the Eagles lose in the first round. It means nothing. The 2,000 yards, it hurts. It hits completely different. And I am concerned about next year because usually outside of Terrell Davis and his running style, that's a tough one because he's not a physical back, but he ain't running out of. He's not a tiptoe burglar either. You know, next year, what is he going to look like? Next year, what is it? Because 2,000 yards seems to always take tolls on players. So, but it would be a major disappointment to have him rush for 2,000 yards and the Eagles lose to the Packers in the first round. Speaking of disappointment, it's the end of the season. So before we get to our Super Bowl predictions, who or what team was your most disappointing team this year?
It was a two-horse race for me.
Me
And I
too. Me
look at
too.
it, and I'm going to have to stick with the NFC side. I'll say the Dallas Cowboys. I look at that team. They they should have been a playoff team. They should have been probably a six seed at that. They still disappointed. The way that they flamed out at this whole entire thing is bad, man. It's bad. And I don't care if you have like they could have sleptwalked their way to at least eight, nine, like 9 wins into a wild card. They should have sleptwalked away to 10 wins. When you look at this conference and you look at everybody else there, it was early on to see that. Once they saw all this stuff happening, they blew up. It's like, yeah, it should have been there. They should have been. I don't care if it's injuries. I don't care like that. And that's where you look at organizational control. This team should have been that. And Jerry got what he deserved. Jerry got what he deserved after all that was said and done. Close second, there's an AFC South team that was a close second, but I just look at that overall and just thinking, you still, even with all the missteps they took before the season, all that strife they caused, all that headaches they caused by not doing it, they not signing those extensions. When you look at the roster itself for the top end, the guys who you're supposed to rely on, it's better than the teams that you some of these other teams you're seeing right now. Like it should have been that way, but they just in typical Cowboys fashion. Wait, we forgot. Wait, we're allowed to win? Oh yeah. And there you are right now.
You're a look. Someone says Chris Duck. You look before you duck. That's you. Someone says Chris Duck. You look before you duck. I am a duck guy. You say duck, I duck friendly. Told you before the season started, way back in, and I'm not I told you so guy. But when it comes to the Cowgirls, the writing was on the wall. They had no faith in their coach. They reluctantly signed their quarterback. They reluctantly signed their wide receiver. They brought back Jim Brown at running back. Like they had no plans on winning this year. They completely were in the sweepstakes for somebody, and they just didn't want to tell us who. The Cowboys had no plans on winning this year. They were definitely, I don't know what Jerry's issue was or what was going on behind the scenes, but they didn't want to do it. So the fact that you could sit here on our podcast, our video cast, whatever they calling these things these days, and say you were disappointed by the Cowboys, that's your fault. That's your fault. The Cowboys told you who they were before they arrived, and you didn't want to believe. They told you they'd be there at 8, and they showed up at 10, and you still sat there and waited for them. That's your fault.
I didn't think they were going to win the NFC East. I didn't think that too, but I thought at least get the third wild card at the minimum, a third wild card. That would because when you look before the season, when you look at everything that's happened, did you foresee the Minnesota Vikings coming out of nowhere?
No, but there's always a team that comes out of nowhere. And I got to go back and watch the tape. I think you picked the Vikings. I think
Yeah,
you actually picked the Vikings to come out of nowhere, them and the Cardinals. But no, we're gonna stay on
the
the
Cardinals
track
for
we're on.
sure. Yep.
No, I didn't think they were gonna be in playoff because I said, in fact, I asked you how long would it be before we heard Bill Belichick's name. It didn't last long, but then he took the job in Carolina, so he's
Mhm.
out of there. But yeah, no. The Cowboys, you knew, but like I said, they told you they'd be there at 8, and they showed up at 10, and you decided to sit and wait. Everybody else left the party. You decided to sit and wait, and then got mad they were late. And bro, you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself. We got two horses for my disappointing. The first one I want to say an honorable mention to is the Chicago Bears. I did not think the Bears would be this great, profound team, but I thought they would be better. I thought Caleb would be better. I thought they would be a more aesthetically fun team to watch. They're the same old Bears. They look awful. And at times they look straight pathetic. And I'm not talking about on a personal note. I'm talking about offensively, schematically, execution wise, mood, personality, enthusiasm, all of those things. They look like a defeated football team. Maybe it changes for them. I'm starting to wonder though if Caleb is going to be broken beyond repair. It didn't break Peyton Manning, but smoke clears. Peyton Manning had one Super Bowl win in Indianapolis, and he beat Rex Grossman to get it. So let's call it what it is. And if he has one Super Bowl win in Chicago and has to beat the likes of like Trevor Lawrence to get it, then you're going to be asking questions. My second most disappointing team, or the team that, or not second, but the team that is disappointing the most, is Trevor Lawrence led Jacksonville Jaguars. Your division sucks. Yeah, the Texans are okay. I don't have the record in front of me. I don't think the Texans won more than 10 games. Correct me if I'm wrong. What they win? 10 games?
Think so.
I could double check that in a second. But yeah, the Texans were not a team that anybody thought was going to be world beaters. They were going to be a solid football team. But the Titans stink.
Oh, they're 9-7. They're 9-7.
Colts stink. As I said, they didn't win more than 10 games. The Colts stink. You're the first pick in the draft. You've got long locks, long flowing hair. You're supposed to be prototypical 6'5", laser rocket arm, beautiful representation of what the NFL quarterback's supposed to look like. And you were headed to your fourth head coach, Urban Meyer, Doug Peterson, and who was there before Urban Meyer? Doug Marrone?
Marrone was there, yeah.
Yeah,
Marrone was the
I
one.
know Doug Marrone was in the building. I can't know if he got
Yeah.
Trevor or not. So you headed to your fourth head coach. You play in a division that's awful. You got to win your division first. You can't seem to do that. Now you've got the injury bug looming over you. You can't seem to get people to want to come play with you, which is very telling because you can usually get a wide receiver that wants to come play with you. Trevor can't get anybody. Everyone's reluctant to call this out. I'm willing to call it out, and I'm willing to stand 10 toes down and say, he's a bust. He's a bust. He's a bust. He's a bust. He may be able to put up those Joe Burrow numbers. Yay. Your team's winning 6 or 7 games a year. Get out of here. Because if it was Lamar Jackson, and I've said before, it was Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Jalen Hurts, we become. If it was that, if you switch positions and you say it was Dak Prescott in Jacksonville, playing in that division, playing against those teams, when the best team within the division is 9-7, if it was not Dave Brown, if it was the quarterback, Daniel Jones, everybody gets called out, but Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. They get to skate on by like it's nothing. See, at Jacksonville, they whiff on their draft picks. I can't remember the last time is it Donovan Darius? No, the cornerback that they traded has bounced around the league. It's probably the last time we thought about a Jacksonville Jaguars high-level player. Was that
Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey, yeah. I was saying the last time we thought about a top player in Jacksonville at their position. And there may be a lineman that I don't know about, but when you're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, very rarely do they have top 10 anything. And in a league where everyone gets the same amount of opportunities, the same crack at the bell, for them to be this bad, year in, year out. For them to be this awful, year in. And I know they made the playoffs last year. For them to be this bad, year in and year out, and have the number one pick at quarterback, who was supposed to be a can't miss prospect, not only did they miss, he looks like the reason why they missed. So that's my most disappointing team. You can throw the Dolphins in there, but injuries and a lot of other things played a role in the Dolphins. But Chicago and Jacksonville were the most disappointing teams for me. What say you?
That's a good one. Those are good ones. And the other one I was thinking maybe is the Colts too. When you look at
Really?
yeah, because I look at the way that I look at you have Jonathan Taylor. We're talking about Saquon Barkley, all these good backs. Jonathan Taylor is top 5 back in this league. Mm-hmm. You look at the way that Anthony Richardson, you thought he would. I know he's coming back from he missed most of last year because of injury. He's coming back. He's got the raw tools, and you're relying on Shane Steichen and the rest of that coaching staff to develop him and be something. And how many times we see he can make the toughest throw, toughest throw in the back of the end zone. Touchdown. Okay. 5 yard screen, intercepted. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on. And the defense, I know it's not a world beater defense, but it's okay. The middle of the pack. So I look at the Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, and AR, and the fact, and then the most telling thing is it looked like that team quit. That it just seems like they feel that team quit. When you lose that much, you give up 320 yards to Drew Lock and the
Yeah.
Giants, you quit. And I worry about how much longer he's going to. I worry. I'm thinking he's going to be let go on Black. He's got to that point now. I wonder if Shane Steichen's going to be let go.
How many years has he been
It's
there?
two, I think. Yeah, 20 since after the Eagles Super Bowl.
Yeah, so two
So
years.
yeah,
They usually give you a
23-24.
third year more than anything
Yeah,
because you usually get a 5 year contract with a fifth year option. So if they let you go to third year, and you only got to pay you for the
it,
fourth year.
you think so, but there's one problem. Normal teams do that. You have Jim Irsay as your owner. That's the problem.
Well, let's stay there for a minute because the next one is the Super Bowl picks. But we can talk about coaches we think that will probably be let go. You said you got the Colts. The coach that I think that a lot of people should be keeping an eye on is Kyle Shanahan. And I don't think if
Ooh,
I don't know if Kyle will be gone, whether it be a mutual parting of mutual parting of ways, or if it will be an organization that just wants a new voice. But you watch the success D'Amico Ryans is having in Houston, and you just wonder if San Francisco could have had that in their building, and would they have won at least one of those Super Bowls, or at least gotten to more than two Super Bowls, had they had D'Amico Ryan's there. So that's one, and also McDaniel's out in Miami, I think, is a concern. I don't see it happening, but would we be surprised?
no, no. I think he did. I think everybody's figured out his offense. It was a lot of it's wing T-ish in a way. I don't mean to dumb it down that way. The reason why I say I don't mean to dumb it down that way. There's a lot of motions, and you just have to be disciplined enough to
Oh,
stop it.
wing T. That's
It is like when you look at the wing T, there's a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection. But if everybody played their assignments well enough, you couldn't. You played it well. You look at Mike McDaniel, everybody's running all this motion, trying to go back and forth. And you just tell if you stay to your basis, stay to your assignments, you'll be fine. And that's what you're seeing happen there. And then you lost Tua. Yeah, that's bad. It's a good thing. That's not good. That doesn't help you out.
that
But the
happens though.
fact, yeah, Waddle and Hill, you should be getting more out of those guys. At offense, to me, it's the offense and the scheme. And that's why I'm like, you know what, it's I think everybody's caught up to him. Either he needs to bring somebody in to help him out to diversify himself and give different looks, or I wouldn't be
If I
sorry
got to
either.
bring somebody in to help you do your job, then I need to get rid of you. That's my theory on consultants. If I'm paying somebody to run my department, they need to tell me what's wrong with it. If I got to bring somebody else in to tell me what you can't tell me, then I don't need you. So that's how I feel about that. Quickly, because we got 5 minutes to go, and I want to get this in here. The Super Bowl prediction, not who's going to win, but who do you have going to the Super Bowl?
It's going to help your argument from earlier on. It really is. I think we see it's going to happen, but the more I just think it's going to happen, I think we see Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl. I really think we're going to see that
That'd be
because I
great for
don't care.
sports.
The only way I think it happens if Minnesota somehow gets to the NFC Championship game, and it's not so much the fact that it's the blitz because I think the Eagles have done well against teams that blitz them a lot. It's the fact that it's something about Minnesota. I know they won the Super Bowl there, but when they play the Vikings in that dome and how loud it is and just everything else, it's something about it. And then you got Justin Jefferson and just I want to say Addison. I almost say Joseph Adai, but no. Sorry, but yeah, you like those two Minnesota wide receivers on the outside. I can see them causing some issues in terms of that, even with with this really good pass defense the Eagles have shown, but they've been showing holes lately. So yeah, but I think it's going to be more Eagles. I think we're seeing a rematch of the Eagles Chiefs. How about you?
Well, I obviously have the Eagles in the NFC. I would love to pick another team just to take the pressure off the Eagles and just root for my team, but I don't believe in the loins at all. No, and I just won't. I just don't see a team. Injuries, I think, will catch up to them. Minnesota is a surprise, but eventually, your talent will overtake some of that, and the Eagles have more talent. Talent wise, the Eagles are probably one of the most talented teams in the NFL. They can beat you different ways. And we said this week one when we were talking about Saquon Barkley and just Eagles in general. Teams want most people want to say pick your poison. Well, the Eagles can determine how you're poisoned. So, I like the Eagles in the NFC. My AFC team, I'm gonna take one last bite at this apple, Chris. I'll take one last journey on this road. and I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens. I just feel
Ooh.
like the Ravens at this point, they're gonna run into like so right now they're drawing the Chargers in the first round. And that will exercise some of Lamar's demons because that was the first team he played in the playoffs and he looked awful. But eventually you've got to punch the bully. And the thing about fighting the bully, the thing about beating the champion is you have to knock them out. You can't go toe to toe with them. You can't match wits with them. You have to knock them out. And I'm just going to go with the Ravens on this one. I don't have any statistical thing to back it up. I don't have a gut feeling. I just believe so much in Lamar Jackson that eventually he'll figure it out. And I feel like three-peating is hard in any sport, but in the NFL, so many things have to break your way. It's just I just don't see it happening. But it's interesting. Neither one of us picked Buffalo. But yeah, I got the Ravens and I got the Eagles in the Super Bowl. But I would love to see Chiefs Eagles. I think it'd be great for sports to have that type of rivalry brewing because both teams have good quarterbacks. And I'm not ready to call Sirianni a coach, but both teams are ran very well. So as long as their quarterbacks are healthy, they'll be in the running for it. So I like your pick. I like my pick. We'll see where it falls out. Great show, Chris, as always. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the podcast, what you like, share, comment, post whatever your share. Was it like, share, comment, and whatever else your podcast platform allows you to do. He's Chris Franklin, NJ.com. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. Until next time, we appreciate your time of year. You be easy.